Hello everyone, I'm Rosa, welcome to the channel. So today we are talking about all the series that I am currently reading. So I did a video like this like 6-7 months ago, and one of my goals for this year was actually that I wanted to finish a lot of the series that I had started, because the video back then included like 37 series or something. Today's video includes 40, and I am not including companion novels, which I did in the last one. So as you can probably tell if you do the math, I have not succeeded with my goal. I have started more series than I finished. I suck. It's fine. Anyway, we're gonna talk about 40 of those series today. I'm gonna be a little bit quick about it because it is 40 books. Knowing me, I could easily spend 3 minutes on each one, so I'm gonna try not to. And also, I will be leaving chapters down below in the timeline if you'd rather hear about like adult fantasy, for example, or contemporary books. You can find chapters to those in the timeline down below. But we're starting out with young adult fantasy and sci-fi, books that I do own the sequel for, but I have not started, so let's get started. The first one being Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. In this book, we follow Bree, who is a high school student. She has lost her mother recently and is dealing with a lot of grief as a result of that, of course. So she's trying to throw herself over her schoolwork, trying to fit in while also dealing with just being sad. Because of this, she, on the first day of school, or the first day at campus, decides to go out with one of her friends, and while out, strange things begin to happen. Bree is seeing things that she's not supposed to see, and slowly but surely she finds herself kind of in the middle of a secret society group that is tied to King Arthur and the stories of King Arthur in some way. And this goes back like centuries. Bree suspects that this society, this group, might have something to do, or at least has knowledge about what happened with her mother, because the circumstances around her death were a little bit curious. And so she slowly but surely decides to infiltrate the society. And that is Legendborn. The sequel, Bloodmarked, is out. I do technically own a copy of it. It's just not in my library right now as of this very moment, but it's on its way to me. I, however, don't feel like I want to pick it up right away just because I didn't fully love Legendborn, but I will want to read it eventually, so, because the ending of this one was pretty good. Next up, we're talking about We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faisal, which is the first one in the Sansa Varawiya duology, the sequel being We Free the Stars. We Free the Stars. It's right over here, I can see it. In this book, we follow two people. One is a hunter. She hunts for a village because her village is kind of struggling to get food and such, but our lead girl somehow just has a way of finding things and finding animals and what do they call it? Game, I suppose. She's a very good hunter in that way. We also follow the Prince of Death, who is technically the Sultan's, I can't remember if he's like fully son or if he's just a stepson. He might be a son by blood. I can't recall, but his title is Prince of Death because the Sultan often sends him out as like a mercenary. So the story in this one is that the two of them are, well, a hunter is sent off to get this thing from the middle of this area, which will basically, it's a very dangerous area too, might I just add, but someone has sent her to get this item from the middle of this island in the middle of this world that this takes place in because it'll free magic, and the Sultan has sent off Nazir, the Prince of Death, to kill our lead girl. Saphira? Her name is Saphira. And so they meet in the middle and things go down. And that is We Hunt the Flame. This was beautiful. I can't believe I haven't picked up We Free the Stars yet because I've heard that it's a little bit better than this one and I loved it. But we'll see. Can highly recommend this duology though, or at least the first one. Can't speak on the second one yet, but anyway. Then we got The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. In this book, we follow Jude Duarte, who is a human living in Fairy. She's been taken there along with her twin sister and also her older sister. Her older sister, as an important point, is actually half Fae. Jude and her twin sisters are just fully human. But the big sister's father has taken them to Fairy, where they're now living and have been living there for like 7 or 10 years. Things are not easy for humans though in Fairy because Fae tend to be quite mean towards us. And although her sister has her twin sister has kind of learned to live with it, and it's just like, well, if I don't fight back, they'll just be nicer to me. Jude is the opposite. She does not take it, so she fights back. She basically decides to stoop to their level, if you will. And so she deals a lot with this group that is led by, I think he's the youngest son of the High King, so he's the prince, he's the youngest prince, his name's Carden. And the two just don't, like, they don't know. They don't get along, not even one bit. Aside from that, there's a lot of court intrigue in this one. It is a bully romance, but there's also that. It's a lot like who's gonna take over the crown, you know, that sort of thing. So it's a bit more than just a bully romance, which really surprised me. I loved this. I thought it was great. Really good YA. Don't know why I haven't read the next one, but it's on my November TBR, and November is over today, so I guess we'll find another time to read it. Then we got Graceling by Kristen Kishore. I've only read the first one in the series. They are technically companion novels, but they do work as like a series as well because they take place in the same universe and it's the same world and, you know, that whole thing. So even though companion novels, I've decided to include it in this video. In this book, we follow Katsa. Katsa is a Graceling, and Gracelings have been born with different powers. So Katsa is just very good at killing, for example. There's another one in this book who is very good at fighting, just as an example, you know. Aside from that, it's a little bit difficult for me to explain the plot of this one, other than a man goes missing, Katsa is sent out to retrieve this man again, and in the process also learns some secrets that basically opens up a whole new plot in this book. And there's also a guy, so there's a little bit of romance in it. Bit of a slow burn as well. I really liked this. I thought it was very good YA, and I do own Fire. I just haven't started it yet, but hopefully I can get myself to do that because I really want to get to Bitter Blue as well. For some reason that name is just so cute to me. I really want to read that book. So anyway, but that is Graceling. Then we got one that I actually started the sequel for, and that is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor, which I loved so much. So the plot for this one is also a little bit difficult to explain, but we follow two people. One is Laszlo Strange, who is basically a librarian. He's an orphan. He's been taken off to a library when he was a kid. That's basically where he grew up. And he loves stories. Like, he is also obsessed with this place that is called Weep. I think that's the name they use for it, but the name for the city has been lost. Everyone's forgotten it, and there's a lot of stories tied to this city as well, and Laszlo is basically obsessed with Weep. He's learned the language that they speak in Weep. Like, that's the amount of obsession we're at. So as it turns out, some people come to the library or the city where Laszlo lives, and they have to gather a group, collect a group to bring back with them to Weep, and Laszlo is actually chosen for this group, so he finally gets to outlive his dreams. And then there's the other thing that I can't really touch on, but there are gods in this world. They are blue people, and they can have abilities, and when Laszlo arrives in Weep, he keeps dreaming of this blue girl, and he's very curious to get to know who is she, and, you know, it's a very beautiful book. I started the sequel, but it wasn't on my TBR for the month that I read it, and I just really also wanted to read a lot of the other books that I had on it, so I decided to put it down again. And then I never got the time to pick it up. So I'm starting over with it at some point, but I'm really excited to read it because I loved this book so much. It was so stunning, it was so beautiful. So whoever told me to read this, thank you. Next we have Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber, which, might I just add, is a bit of a spin-off to the Caraval trilogy, just in case. But in this book we follow Evangeline Fox, who is a human. I feel like it's important to say, but she's a human. Evangeline is deeply in love with this guy that, unfortunately for her, her sister is marrying. So of course she's heartbroken because she wants him, and in an act of desperation she decides to contact one of the fates of this world. So fates are basically also, I kind of want to call them gods as well, like they have different, they're basically bound to different tragedies, kind of. I almost want to say, like, they have their different abilities and such, and they're never fully positive abilities. So anyway, you can't really trust fates in this world, is my point. Always something negative surrounding the fates. But in an act of desperation, she decides to contact the Prince of Hearts, whose name is Jax, and he's one of the fates. So she makes a deal with him, which basically goes something like, if you stop the wedding so I can get this man that I wanna, like this man that I'm obsessed with, I will give you 3 kisses. One important note as well is that a kiss from the Prince of Hearts can actually kill you. That's a thing. And Evangeline finds herself in a bit of a difficult situation after entering this deal with Jax, and that is essentially what this is about, because Jax does not want to let her go. I own the sequel. It is literally right there. I just haven't gotten to it yet, but I really want to because I liked this a lot. I'm also a big fan of Jax as a character. I think he's very interesting. So I'll get to it at some point. I just haven't gone there yet. Why are you standing right there? Then we have Gilded by Marissa Mayer. This I read for the book club actually. If you want to check out the book club, there's a link to it at the top of the description box. Also in the pinned comment. But in this one, we follow, what's her name? Sarilda. We follow Sarilda, who is blessed with the talent to tell stories. Sarilda lives in a world that I can't remember exactly the interval, but some points, like every other full moon or every full moon or something, there's this thing called the Wild Hunt, which is led by the Earl King and is undead hunters, and it's very much tied to death, if you will. And unfortunately for Sarilda, word gets back to the Earl King that Sarilda is able to spin gold. Because for some reason in one of her stories, she said that she's able to. And of course the Earl King is like, that is a brilliant talent and ability to have. I need you in my castle to work for me so you can spin gold for me. So he basically kidnaps her and she finds herself in a bit of a situation. But also while at the Earl King's castle, she gets help from this guy who is called Guild. I can't remember his name. I'll be honest, I cannot remember his name, but there's this mysterious boy who suddenly shows up and helps her out, and she also finds out that there's a lot of secrets hidden in this castle as well. So that's basically what Gilded is about. Didn't fully love this one. I do own the sequel Cursed though, so I'll get to it at some point. I'm just not like in a hurry to get to it, but I do want to read it. There's just a bit of a thing at the end of the first one that I'm not a super big fan of, so I was a bit like, But also the first one was a little bit long drawn at times because a lot of the stories were repeated and stuff, so we'll see though. I have full faith that Cursed will be a little bit better. Next up we have Defy the Night by Bridget Kimmerer, which I love. I love this book so much. In this book we follow a girl and also a guy that live in a kingdom that is currently plagued by diseases, or just a disease. This disease is only held at bay or cured by a certain flower that is not easy to come by. And to add to that, the rich people in this kingdom are also kind of hoarding the flower. They're taking way too much of it. So our two lead people, as rebels, basically steal this flower and give it to the poor people. Unfortunately, something happens one day and our lead girl finds herself in a bit of a state of mind and decides to infiltrate the castle, and she finds out some shocking things when she gets to the castle. And that is essentially what Defy the Night is. Loved it. Don't know why I haven't read Defend the Dawn yet. I got it right the first time. Wow. Okay. Anyway, that's the first time that's happened. I don't know why I haven't read Defend the Dawn yet, but I will soon because this was so good. Next there was one that I actually started last year, and it's Stalking Jack the Ripper. I've read the first two. I'm still missing the last two. I'm halfway through the series, and I meant to read the last two in October, just didn't get to it. In this book though, we follow Audrey Rose, who has a very big passion for cutting up dead bodies. Just to put it plainly, yep, there you have it. That's what she loves to do. She's very into forensics. But as a woman in the time that this takes place, she's not really supposed to do or be interested in that kind of stuff, so she's having a hard time going to school with it or for it. She can't really get in anywhere, if you get what I mean. But fortunately for her, I think her uncle it is, actually has, like, for the lack of a better word, a studio where he works on dead bodies. I can't remember what that's called. It's not a morgue, but like that's what he does. Okay, so she gets to learn a little bit from him as well, but he has a super annoying assistant or intern, whatever his title is, whose name is, I can't remember his first name, but his last name is Cresswell. And as there is a string of murders happening around London, Audrey Rose and Cresswell, I think his name is Thomas. But anyway, they find themselves kind of dragged into this investigation and are very curious about it, and that is what the first one is about. The sequel is about something completely different. Third one, again, is about something completely different, but I like this one, liked the sequel a little bit less, so I just haven't gotten to the third one yet. But I will, because I'm sure that it picks up again from the third one. I have full faith, and if it doesn't, then maybe it will in the fourth one. Then we got Skyward by Brandon Sanderson, first sci-fi mentioned in this video. In this book we follow Spencer, who just, of all the things, want to be a pilot. Her father used to be a pilot when she was younger before he died in a terrible accident. There are certain things surrounding this accident that have caused Spensa and her family to be labeled as traitors in this world. And so despite Spensa really wanting to be a pilot, she can't actually get into pilot school because they won't let her. But all she wants to be is a pilot. Luckily for Spensa, you can argue that it's a bit maybe not lucky. The state of this planet that they're on is a little bit, the humans don't have it easy because there's actually a break in the sky where Krell aliens are coming down to kill people. And so they essentially need all the pilots that they can get. So Spensa is like, this is my chance, and that's all I'm gonna say. But there's a lot going on aside from that. And this was so good. I devoured this. I really just badly need to get to the rest. I think the 4th one is coming out next year as well, or maybe in 2024. Brandon Sanderson is a very busy writer. So we'll see, but I'm very excited to be reading the rest of the series because it's really good. The first one at least. Really good. Spensa is awesome. And then very recently I started Cinder, also known as The Luna Chronicles by Marissa Mayer. This was so good. I can't wait to read the rest of them. But in this one we follow Cinder, who's right here, who is an android. So she is cyborg, not an android. She's a cyborg, which basically means that she's part made of mechanics. You know, she has like a metal leg and stuff. Okay. This also means that she doesn't have the same rights as humans do in this world and is very much mistreated by her stepmother. Oh, it's a Cinderella retelling, I should probably say. One day though, the prince, the very charming young prince, comes in to basically ask for a favor of Cinder. He needs her to fix one of his androids, and Cinder is known as like being the best mechanic in this city, so she's like, okay, I'll take on this task. And so because of this, slowly Cinder is dragged into this like big struggle that is happening in this world. There's a lot of politics included, and there's a big threat from outside our planet and a lot of stuff going on. This was so cool. I need to continue the series. I can't wait to see how the other girls are being brought into it. Even though I think we've already been introduced to one of them in this one. I'm looking at the books, they're all over there so I can see their names. Super excited. So this was lovely. I can't wait. I'll get on it when I got time in maybe March. Then we're gonna talk about 3 series that I want to continue. I just don't have the sequels for them. The first one is This Poisoned Heart by Kaylin Barron. This is about a girl who with her parents move to an estate after she has inherited it from her, she's adopted, so she's inherited it from her biological mother, who she's never met, by the way. And when she arrives at this estate, there's a secret garden and a lot of secrets as well. Also, I should probably mention that our lead girl has powers. She has the powers to grow plants. And it's a power that she, as someone who has lived in the city before, has not really had the chance to like, just, you know, let it do its thing. Like, she always has to suppress it because there are a lot of people in the city. So when she finally gets to this estate, she can let it do her thing, and then all the secrets. And I really like the story in this one, although I did have some negative things about it as well, but I think it's a cool read. I want to try out the sequel. Just haven't gotten the chance to get it in my collection yet, but I'll get there. Next one, I'm not really sure that, actually it's not like, I'm not fully set on continuing it, but I might. It's The Book of Tea, which the first one is called A Magic Steeped in Poison. The sequel is called, I can't actually remember at all. Something else. Not the same title. A Venom Dark and Sweet. Yes, I looked that up. In this one though, we follow our lead girl, whose mother has died after our lead girl actually made her a cup of tea that turned out to be poisoned. And so her mother died from this, but her sister is still alive, however, dealing with this poison. So she knows, as she's, what do they call them again? She can like make tea. I forgot. There's this Shanonshi, yes. They're tea makers. Tea has basically magical properties in this book. There's a whole system. I'm not going to try to explain it because I can't remember the details of it, but that's a thing. And so when there's a competition at the capital to find the kingdom's greatest Shanonshi, our lead girl decides to partake in it because she knows that if she wins, she'll actually be able to save her sister. And that's what this book is about. I didn't fully love this one. It did have a few things to it that I just don't like to see in YA, so that's why I didn't decide to pre-order the sequel. But I'm not completely turned off of it, so we'll see. And then we got one that's so confusing, so original, and somehow it just works. It's The Gilded Ones. I've forgotten to say author names. Judy I. Lin. Namina Forna. The sequel, The Merciless Ones, has been out for a little while. This is also incredibly difficult to summarize actually, but we follow a girl who, on her like 17th or 16th birthday, something like it, has to go through a ritual to basically see if her blood runs red or if it runs gold, because if it runs gold, you're like partly demon. So at this ritual, it just so happens that our lead girl's blood actually runs gold. So she's taken off to the capital, where she is basically being trained to be a soldier for the king. Or whatever his title is in this book, I can't remember. And while there, her and the other girls who also have golden blood are not being treated well and stuff, and there's a whole lot like secrets, you know, just secrets. Things are not as they seem. And this was so confusing at times, but it's so original and it's so entertaining. I really need to see the sequel because I'm pretty sure that this ended on a very terrible cliffhanger, as in terribly mean. Yeah, I remember it now. Yeah, I need the sequel. Oh, and I also forgot Daughter of the Pirate King by Trisha Levenseller. I do have access to the sequel, I just don't have a physical copy of either of them, so I just kind of forgot a little bit. But in this book we follow Elosa, who is the daughter of the Pirate King, and so she's often sent out on missions and quests and stuff to get various things for her dad. As the book starts, she is being captured by an enemy ship. But as it turns out, Elosa is there on purpose. She's being captured on purpose because her father needs something that is on the ship. So despite Elosa being stuck in a cell, stuck because actually she can get out of it and frequently does so, she has to find this thing that is on the ship because her father really needs this item, but she's both struggling to not get caught while sneaking out of her prison cell, but also there's a guy on the ship. He's not the captain, but the first mate or whatever the title is. He just always gets in the way. He's super annoying, but he's also very charming. And that's the first one. I will be reading Daughter of the Siren Queen here in December. I'm super excited because I really like the first one, just like good YA. But I don't have physical copies of them because I've gotten ARCs of them, so anyway. And then we're entering what would be new adult territory. First one being The Bridge Kingdom, and these are by Danielle L. Jensen. I will say, so the first two are technically a duology that is finished, but there's the book called The Inadequate Heir, which I don't actually really know what it's about. But it kind of like, it picks up where this leaves off, or where The Traitor Queen, the sequel to The Bridge Kingdom, leaves off, so I don't think you can go directly into The Inadequate Heir. I think you have to read this duology first, and that's why I'm including it. But in this book, we follow Laura, who has been trained her whole life to be a killer. She's the daughter of the leader of a country, and he has decided to train his daughters to be killers. So she's supposed to be married off to this like competing kingdom's leader as well. I don't want to call him a king. Is he a king? Prince? Anyway, she's supposed to be married off to this guy who leads the Bridge Kingdom. The Bridge Kingdom has a lot of power in, not like magical powers, but it connects different kingdoms because it's like this long bridge in between the kingdoms. So there's a lot of, it has high value, you know what I mean? And so she's supposed to be sent off there to marry the leader, his name is Aaron, and then kill him on their wedding day so they can take over the Bridge Kingdom. But as she gets there, she learns that things are maybe not as they seem, and she might have been taught some wrong things as well. And Aaron is also quite nice. But that's not really what The Inadequate Heir is about. It's just, you follow Laura's brother, but then also a girl from a whole other kingdom, but it takes place in the same world. They're just not companion novels either because of this whole situation with the duology followed by this, so anyway, it's the same story, just follow different characters. If you read Echotar, it's basically like the first trilogy followed by A Court of Silver Flames, you know, that sort of situation. And then we have, and I remember including this on the last video as well, but From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I am still standing by the fact that I have not continued reading this because I'm nervous. But in this book, we follow Penelope, also known as Poppy, who is the maiden. She's been chosen as the maiden, which basically means that she is not allowed to leave the castle ever. She is not supposed to make friends with anybody. She's not supposed to talk to or look at anybody. She is just supposed to be safe at the castle. However, Poppy has a tendency to sneak out at night, and on one of her trips outside of the castle's walls, she goes to this inn where she meets a guy whose name is... what's his name? Hawk, right, Hawk. His name's Hawk. And this meeting sparks some thoughts in Poppy's head, because she's like, is all this staying private and secret and stuff, is it really worth it? Like, am I really supposed to be doing this? Something feels off about the situation. And there's a bit more to it than that, but that's all I can say. There might also be an infiltration done by Hawk, so he ends up at the castle as well. Okay, it's just so I can add that as well, but other than that, I'm not gonna say anything. And I really love this series. I think I gave at least this and the sequel, the first one, so book 1 and 2, 5 stars each, because they are everything that I want in fantasy romance. I'm just really nervous to read the 4th one. Which, if you read the 3rd one, you'll be like, have you been sitting on that cliffhanger for like a year? Yes, I have. Or since maybe February. I can't remember anymore, it's been a while. It was January. I've been sitting on that cliffhanger for months. It's been months. It's not easy, okay? So the next one could possibly also fall under young adult. We keep getting teased about it, and then I'm like, does it finally happen? And then it turns out that no, it doesn't, so it's still kind of young adult, but now I'm in the situation again with the 3rd one that I haven't read yet, but Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. So she said that the sequel was gonna be new adult. I wouldn't say that it is, like a little bit maybe, but not fully. Now I'm kind of getting the impression that the 3rd one is, but again, I haven't read it, so like I don't know. I just wanted to keep them under new adult just in case, because I feel like it's inappropriate to put them in young adult if they are. Like if they're new adult. If they include the stuff, you know? Anyway, haven't read the 3rd one yet. Am dying to though. But in this book, we follow Emilia. How do I remember all those lead characters' names? Do you guys too? Like, that's weird. I can barely remember my family members' names. What the heck? Anyway, Emilia is a witch. She also has a twin sister. And one day, she comes across her twin sister dead. She finds her twin sister dead. Don't know why I'm laughing, let's just ignore that. Emilia, though, will do everything she can to figure out who killed her sister and figure out what happened. And so she decides to contact one of the princes of hell, one of the 7 princes of hell, and basically trick him into making a deal with her. So she summons Wrath, and he's not happy about it. She's not really wanting to deal with his attitude either. It's a whole situation. But together they have to find out what happened to her sister. And this was a fun read. So sequel also kind of a fun read. Not always, but I would say also a pretty solid read. Just haven't gotten to the 3rd one yet, but I do own it. So we'll see once I get to it. Then we got one that I don't have a physical copy of, and that is the Honey and Ice trilogy. So I forgot what the 3rd one is called, but the first one is A Court of Honey and Ice, and then there's A Court of Feathers and Bones. I can't remember the titles. Anyway, it's not actually called A Court of Honey and Ice, it's called A Court of Honey and Ash. I just can't remember it. And after looking it up, the 3rd one is A Crown of Petals and Ice. So I have read the first 2, just haven't gotten to the 3rd one, even though I really want to, but it's because I was reading them on Kindle Unlimited and then I lost my subscription. Hard to explain, but now I have access to it again, so I'll get to it. This one is also a little bit difficult to summarize, but we follow a girl who is half human, half fae. So fae in this world, in this version of the world, it actually takes place in our world. But it just has like an alternate dimension where the Fae world is as well. It's a bit hard to explain, but it's important to note that. It's called Underhill. However, the Fae actually live in our world. They've kind of settled down in our world as well, so they don't always go back to Underhill, but they need to now and then to like regain their strength and stuff. But our lead girl is half human, half fae. So fae in this world have to go through a trial to see if they can be accepted into the system that they have, and also to see if they're seelie or unseelie as well, I think, as far as I remember, but I could be wrong about that point. Anyway, something happens during her trial and the entrance to Underhill shatters and no one can get there. And she's the only one that knows that she did it. She broke it, like she fully just blasted it somehow. So she takes off on an adventure, sort of, to figure out how to repair it and also what happened and how it broke and everything. And while also on this adventure, this trip, she is hunted by a dude that I can't really talk about much, but there's some tension there, some history. There's some things going on. He's also unseelie. There's an attraction, yes. These books are actually quite good. Very slow burn, as far as I remember, but surprisingly good. So I will definitely be reading the third one before I lose my Kindle Unlimited membership again. And then lastly, we have the last new adult book that I don't have access to the sequels for, and that is The Bargainer. These are by Laura Talassa. I think I read the first one on Kindle Unlimited, but they've been taken off of KU now, so I just don't have the sequels, but maybe I'll have to invest in them because I actually really like the first one. We follow, I forgot her name, but she is a siren. So she has very seductive powers, if you will. She's also gone through some trauma in her childhood because her father was killed. And so to fight loneliness, because she's always been lonely throughout her life, she has been contacting the bargainer a lot to make bargains. She has an entire arm filled with beads for every bargain that she's made with him. He's also a fae of some kind, by the way. Just want to point, the bargainer is just like his title because he makes bargains, but he's a fae. And he's never asked for anything in return for these bargains. Like, she's always just been asking for time, company. He's never asked for anything in return. She knows that one day, though, he'll want something back. And so, as it happens, one day when she gets home, she finds him sitting in her chair with a smirk on his face, and he's clearly like, I think it's time. Because as it turns out, the bargainer actually needs her help to solve a mystery that is going on in the Fae world. So that is what the first one is about. I think I only read the first one, I'm pretty sure, but I could be slightly wrong. I really liked it though. It was a bit more than I thought it was gonna be, and that surprised me in a positive way, but a fantasy romance first and foremost, so I'm excited to read the rest of the series once I get to it. And then we're gonna talk about some adult fantasy and also sci-fi. First off, this is the sequel, but The Last Wish is hidden under 7 books, or 6 or 7 books, so I just took this one because it was in my TBR cart. But it's The Witcher by Andrzej Sapkowski, and in this one, just to keep it vague, actually, we follow Geralt of Rivia, who is a witcher, which means that he has, at some point in his life, gone through some experiments and also a lot of stuff to become a witcher, and so he's a mutant. But being a witcher means that he is basically made to be able to fight paranormal creatures. So we follow him in this and also the first one as he's out doing different jobs for people, because that is what witchers do. They're hired to fight vampires and dragons and wyverns and stuff, like all different kinds of paranormal creatures. There's also a main plot, but I don't really know what it is yet, other than it has to do with fae and also something called the Wild Hunt, which is difficult to explain, and there's a girl as well. There is also a witch who's called Yennefer, so there's a bit of a romance as well. But I've only read The Last Wish and then I've played the game. Or the third one, actually. Half of the second one and then a lot of the third one, so I can't fully say what the story is about because I have holes in my plot. But anyway, excited to pick it up again because it's been a while. We're also going to talk about Gideon the Ninth because I've read the 2 first books. I have Nona, just haven't gotten to it. This is going to be fun because the first one is so different from the second one, and I know for a fact that the third one is going to be so different from the second one. And I know also because Tamsin wrote it in her letter to Illumicrate readers for the special edition set, that the 4th one is also going to be extremely different from the other 3. So like whatever I'm gonna say about Gideon the Ninth doesn't really summarize the other books. But in this one, we follow Gideon, who is an orphan left at the 9th house, and the 9th house is struggling big time. She is also, very important to note, a very good swordswoman. Like, she is a badass with a 2-hander. And so there's a girl, she's like the leader's daughter, and she has very powerful necromancy powers. So when the emperor sends out a request for 1 necromancer per house to be sent to the 2nd house, I think it is. Or is it the 1st house? They're sent somewhere, at least. Okay, anyway. To become a lictor. To train to become a lictor, Harold finds herself in a bit of a situation as well because she needs a cavalier to come with her. A cavalier is a swordsman, but her swordsman sucks. And I think they also run off at some point. So she's in a bit of a situation because she can't go without one. Gideon also just wants to get off of Ninth House. She does not want to be on the 9th planet. She just wants to, like, she has tried to escape this planet so many times, but she stopped every single time. And so Harrow is like, listen, we can make a deal. You come with me, help me become a lictor, and I will let you go. I will give you the papers so you can leave. And Gideon is like, okay, this is my shot. I'm gonna go with her. So they take off to this place. I forgot exactly where it is. And there's a whole lot of mystery. But like, these are just great. I can't wait to read Nona because I love the first two, even though confusing. So confusing, but so good. Then we have Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan, which I love, by the way. So in this one we follow Xingyin, who is the daughter of the moon goddess. Her mother has been banished to the moon after she stole an immortality elixir that was initially given to her husband at the time. This is not legal, it's not allowed because they're given by the celestial emperor and empress. No, empress. She wasn't supposed to get it, so they banished her to the moon. They didn't know, though, that when she drank the potion, she was pregnant with Xingyin. So Xingyin is born on the moon. She's never met anyone, but she's also immortal because her mother drank the potion as she was in her belly. But this means that Xingyin has been born with powers, and she's been told throughout her life that she has to put a damper on them, do not use them, just keep them in check, control them. Whatever you do, do not use them. Unfortunately, her magic flares up one day, which means that the celestial emperor and empress knows that something is going on the moon, so they send people up there, and Xingyin has to run. So she does, and ends up in the celestial kingdom. Here she meets a charming prince. They become friends, and in this whole process, Xingyin also finds out that there's a certain thing that she can get, that if she gets it, she gets a favor from the emperor, and all she wants is to free her mother from being banished to the moon. So there's a lot more than that, but I feel like I have to shorten the plot a lot, but there's a lot going on in this book. Very excited to read The Heart of the Sun Warrior. Like, super excited. You're not supposed to be there either. Then we got The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. In this book, we follow 6 medallions, which means that they are humans with magical powers in some way. They all have, except from 2 of them, they all have their own unique powers. 2 of them have the same kind of powers, but not fully the same. They still work in different ways. And they're supposed to be like 6 of the most powerful medallions on the planet as this book takes, or as it starts, basically. So they're contacted by a guy who's called Atlas because he is gathering a group that is supposed to be sent off to the Alexandrian library to protect it and like create wards, and also at the same time as they're there, work on their own abilities, figure out how to work together and stuff. But what he's not telling them is that he might be bringing in 6 people, but only 5 of them actually get to stay. And what happens with the 6th one? Actually, it says in the synopsis that they die. The 6th one doesn't get to survive. So what happens when they find out that those are the terms? You know, this was interesting. I didn't fully love it, but I'm very interested in the sequel because I liked the ending quite a lot. Next up is The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri, which I loved so much. In this one, we follow 2 women. One is a priestess and the other one is a princess. So the princess has been exiled to this Harana, is that what they call it? Hirana, okay, which is a temple. And this is because her brother, who leads, like, he's the leader currently. I don't want to call him king, but he sucks. He wants to burn his sister, so she doesn't want to give herself up willingly though, and she has to for this burn thing to go the way that he wants it to. So he decides to exile her in this temple, treat her so badly, so that maybe hopefully she'll change her mind. She doesn't. She doesn't want to change her mind. And at this temple we have a lot of priestesses as well. One of them has a little bit of a secret. And one day our princess busts this priestess doing something that she's not supposed to be able to do. And she sees this as an opportunity because maybe I can use her to get out of this temple. And so she she requests her to become her own personal maid so she can get closer to her, and ... Oh, there's also a sapphic romance in this, just in case that was not obvious. I'm really excited for the Oleander Sword. I'm excited for most of the sequels to these books, but I keep reading other books. It's an issue. The last one I don't have a physical copy of, but it's a trilogy. Technically companion novels, but again, it kind of like, you can read the sequel without having read the first one, but it's highly recommended that you read the first one because they do happen in like a consecutive order, if that makes sense, like after each other. So it's called The Musai. It's by E.J. Mello, and it's about three sisters that each have their own unique powers. So in the first one, we follow a girl, the sister who has the power, like her song has certain powers. The second book is about the middle sister. The first one is the youngest sister. The second one is the middle sister, who has powers through her dance, like her dance and also movements are magical in some way. And then the third one is about the oldest sister who plays an instrument. I think it's a violin, and that also has magical powers, but without... Well, I mean, I could say what the other two are about, to be honest, but it doesn't really have any effect on the third plot. They're fantasy romance, and they get a little bit longer after, like, the sequel is like 500 plus pages, whereas the first one is like 360 or something. They're good though, they're cute. Second one is a little bit more steamy than the first one. Don't know how the third one is, but I'm excited to read it. I have an ARG of it, I just need to get to it. And then for the ones that I don't own the sequels for, first one we have Burning Blade and Silver Eye by Django Wexler. What is the book called? Because that's the series name. Ashes of the Sun. In this book, we follow a brother and sister. So there are certain things going on in this world. Some people have powers that are supposedly given to them by God or gods. I can't remember how it is in this world. And then there are the rebels, because these people have these powers that they don't think they're supposed to have. Plus, they don't always treat the people properly. So the rebels have their plans, as you know. So these siblings, when they were kids, the daughter, the sister, was sick a lot. And these people with the powers came to pick her up because they promised that they could make her feel better if they took her away. The brother doesn't want this to happen, so he ends up attacking this person sent off to them, ends up losing an eye in the process, and fast forward in time, the brother has ended up on the rebel side, whereas the sister has ended up on their side instead. And there's a plot as well, like a whole other group of creatures that are in the middle of this as well. Let's just say that the two meet at some point and things go down. Also, because he thought that she was long lost. He's only searched for her, like he's been searching for these people so that he can get revenge. That's why he's on the rebel side. He wants revenge for his sister. So when he gets to see her face to face, it's like, the heck, you know? It's a very cool story. I just honestly haven't had time to get to the sequel, but I really want to read it, so I just need to go on sale because I have it on Kindle. That's it basically. That's why I'm waiting. And then the other one is Neon Gods or Dark Olympus by Katie Robert. I forgot what the sequel is called, but they're companion novels as well, but they take place like after each other. And I think what happens in the world in this one does have an effect on the other ones, which is why I'm including it, but I could be wrong about that though. In this one though, we follow Persephone, who is known as being like a good girl. She is the daughter of Demeter, forgot how to pronounce her name. And so she's a bit like in the public eye already. Everyone just knows her as a good girl, a kind girl who's well-mannered and just nice and a good girl. You know, yeah. Her mother, though, has decided to enter an agreement with Zeus, even though she knows that Zeus is known to kill off his Heras, his wives. So Persephone does not want to end up dead like the other Heras have and decides to run off to the underworld. Not literally the underworld, it's just like the lower part of the city of Dark Olympus. Just so we're clear. And that's where she meets Hades, who's not supposed to exist. Nobody knows he exists. Other than the gods, nobody really knows that he's there. So she's very surprised with this. But he offers her a place at his house, and the two of them end up coming to an agreement, make a deal. I can't remember what he gets out of it, other than maybe pissing off Zeus because he hates him. That might be it. But their deal is basically that they need to ruin her good girl image publicly, very publicly, for everyone to see, money so that Zeus does not want anything to do with her. It's money, okay? That's what this is. So I thought it was fun. It was a good time. I'm just not in a rush to get to the other ones. Although if they suddenly happen to be in my library, I will happily read them. You know, like that sort of situation. Then I got 4 contemporaries, 3 mysteries, and then one that's just a contemporary. First one is Finlay Donovan is Killing It by Il Cosimano. I have the sequel. I'm super excited. In this book, we follow Finlay Donovan, who is a single mother and is struggling money-wise, time-wise. Nothing is going to plan. She lives off of writing novels, mystery novels. It's like murder mysteries. And one day, while everything, like, nothing is going to plan ever, normally anyway, but especially on this day, she is going to a meeting with her agent where she's describing the plot of her newest novel in detail. Remember that it's a murder mystery, so it's like she's describing a murder. And this woman at the table next to them overhears Finlay describing this book, but she misunderstands the situation and ends up thinking that Finlay is a hit woman. So she offers her money in exchange for Finlay killing her husband and doesn't really want to take a no for an answer. So Finlay finds herself in a bit of a situation. This was fun. I can't wait to read the sequel because I had such a good time with this one. My sister's not watching these videos, but I had such a good time with that one that I decided to get it for her for Christmas. So she doesn't watch this, it's fine. I'd be very surprised if she happened to watch this specific video, but if you did, it's your own fault, okay? Then we also got A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson, and in this book we follow Pippa, who is writing a summer project thing, a summer something, on this murder case that happened 5 years ago in her town. So a girl ended up dead, and the guy that the police suspected of doing this, committing the murder, ended up killing himself as well. But Pippa in today's day is very insistent on him being innocent. Like, she does not think that he did this. So she decides to take it upon herself for her summer project to prove that he didn't do this. But as she starts to unravel this case and learn some secrets and stuff, someone's also contacting her and is trying to do their best to get her to stop. And this is so good. So good. I can't remember when I read it, probably during the summer. It was so good. I love Pippa as a character. She's amazing. So I will get to it. I just need time. Then I also have Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson, which I actually have the next 4 in the series. I just haven't read them. You know, it's fine. But in this book, we follow, what's her name? Not Andy Bell. That's the girl who died in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Stevie Bell. Are they both called? Her name is Andy Bell. Stevie Bell. No wonder I was confused. Okay. We follow Stevie, who is very interested in true crime. Like, if there's one thing you need to know, it's that Stevie is obsessed with true crime. She likes a good mystery. So she has been accepted into the school that is for young people that have like a talent of some kind. So one is really good at building robots, for example. There's another one who's really good at writing. There's one that makes YouTube videos, and you know, they all have their different focuses. Stevie's is that she is really interested in true crime, good at solving mysteries. There is an interesting thing about the school though, because the founder, the man who founded the school, his wife and daughter went missing or died. I'm not really sure what happened there. So there's a whole mystery there. And then one day he died as well. And nobody really figured out truly what happened in the situation, like what happened with these people. So as Stevie finds herself at the school, of course she starts to dig into what happened. But there's also someone who really doesn't want her to dig into this cold case. Oh, the guy who's supposed to have done this is called Devious, by the way. Yeah, that's why it's called Truly Devious. Really good book. I need to read the sequels. I have them. They're literally right there staring at me. I'll get to it, okay? And then lastly, for my contemporaries, I think. Yes, I have Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe, which you could argue is a standalone, but there is a sequel. It is over there now. So I've decided to include it in this video anyway. But in this book, we follow Aristotle and Dante, who are young boys that become friends, and then we follow them throughout the years as their friendship evolves. They become really good friends, and then they start to question if maybe they should be more than friends, and you know, a whole lot of stuff like that, and it's very charming. I think that's actually all I'm gonna say about this, because it's really just about their relationship, but also about them finding out like what is their place in the world, because we follow them as they grow up. So it's a very touching book. I haven't heard much about the sequel, if anything, but I really like the first one, so I'm excited to get into it at some point. And I swear, we're getting to the end. I just noticed that there's one that I own that I've forgotten to take out. One moment. But we only got 7 more to talk about, so we're almost done. My only middle grade on my list is Percy Jackson and the Olympians. And the Olympians, yes. I don't have the sequels for this one, but I really want them because this was super charming. I don't think I need to summarize it, but very quickly, we follow Percy, who is half human, half god. So he's a demigod. His father is Poseidon. Yes. Wait, is that? Yeah, Poseidon. Sorry, I went to Rome recently. I got confused with Roman mythology for a second. I was like, wait, no, it's not Apollo. That's not even. Apollo is the sun god. I'm too many gods in my head. Okay, anyway. Poseidon. Okay. Percy has not had an easy school life because trouble basically finds him everywhere. So he's had to change schools quite a lot, move around quite a lot. And as he's going to school one day, stuff happens. He starts to see things like monsters and stuff, and he runs off. His mother runs off with him, and he ends up at this place called Camp Half-Blood, which is basically filled with other kids just like him. So their parents are also human and then god. And after staying there for a while, it turns out that Zeus's lightning bolt has gone missing, and they are suspecting Percy of stealing it somehow, so he's sent off to retrieve it and has to go through a lot of things to get there. I've only actually ever read or watched the first one, so I have no idea what happens in the sequels. None. No, I did not grow up with Percy Jackson, I don't think. Did I? And I just didn't care? Wait, maybe I did. Well, that's awkward. I read like fantasy, not urban fantasy when I was a kid, so I've just basically skipped past Percy Jackson for some reason. But I have no idea what happens in the other ones. That's actually oddly exciting. I need to figure it out. Anyway, I have 3 graphic novels that I want to talk about. First off, we have Monstress. Oh, my nail! That hurt. Okay, Monstress. By Marjorie Liu and Sana Takeda. This is actually really difficult to explain because it's quite confusing, but also really exciting. But we follow a woman, a girl, who has lost her mother, no idea who her father is. He's never been mentioned. Is that a plot point? Anyway, now that I think about it, a little bit weird. But she is what they call an arcana, and then in this world there are also those that are called witches. So her people and the witches that aren't like traditional witches, so don't think broomstick and high pointed hat and black cats and all that thing. Like, no, they're not like that. Think like science fiction, steampunk kind of witch. Yes. But they've been at war for a long time. Like, they don't do well together. And then there's also a question of gods in this one. She has some powers that she's not supposed to have as an arcana. And a lot of, I'm not doing this story justice at all. But there's a lot of questions being asked. And actually I'm just saying the exact same thing that is on the back, but they're saying it in a lot, like a better way than I am. Set in an alternate world of Art Deco beauty and steampunk horror, Monstress tells the epic story of Micah Halfwolf, a teenage survivor of a cataclysmic war between humans and arcanics. Arcanics? Oh, it's humans then. Well, they're humans witches, okay. In the face of oppression and terrible danger, Micah is both hunter and hunted, searching for answers about her mysterious past, as those who seek to use her remain just one step behind. And all the while, the monster within her begins to awaken. Yeah, because there is a question of gods as well, and there's a lot of issues and a lot of mysterious things happening. Like, a lot of questions, but it's pretty good. I'm excited to read the sequel once I get to it, or get my hands on it. Then I also started reading, yesterday actually, the graphic novels for Life is Strange, which is actually a computer game that I played like years ago. And I didn't know there are graphic novels inspired by or like following, like taking place after the video game. So I saw it on Kindle Unlimited. I was like, what? I need to read this. Don't have access to the sequels though, unfortunately. But we follow Max and Chloe that are from the video game. Max has powers, so she's able to jump back in time, at least in the video game. There's a lot of weird things happening. It's kind of difficult to explain without explaining the video game, but it's essentially like a mystery, and it basically takes place after the video game, and there are things happening. They're going back to Arcadia Bay. Max doesn't really have control of her powers anymore, and things are weird. That is super vague, but the graphic novels are also written for people that are fans of the game, so unless you've played the game, nothing I can say actually makes sense. So I'm not really going to try, but Life is Strange as well, I started recently and it was actually pretty good. And then I also started The Walking Dead, the graphic novels, because I started rewatching the TV series and found that the first 10 volumes are on Kindle Unlimited. So I've binged 2 of them yesterday and 1 today. And in case you don't know The Walking Dead, we follow a group of survivors after the world has basically succumbed to the zombie virus. There's a lot of like family drama included in it. Also, it's just in general about survival and what happens to the humans and our behavioral patterns and stuff once we find ourselves in these situations. Like, it really raises some questions about society, if you will. And I'm having a good time with it. Very horror-like, but I'm not easily scared by drawings either, so I'm having a really good time with it. Like, I'm really enjoying them. I think I'll have a good time with the remaining volumes that I have access to as well, so we'll see if I continue them once I have to start actually like buying them individually, but I think I will. There's a lot, by the way. Like, there's a lot of volumes. And then lastly, we're talking about the 3 that I'm probably not going to continue. The first one being, this shouldn't be a surprise because I've dragged it in videos, a couple of them at least, here lately, and that is Lake's Edge by Lyndall Clipstone. So in this we follow a brother and a sister who have not had an easy childhood, don't have an easy time at all. They've run off from home as well at some point. I can't remember what happened to their parents, but they're just not having an easy time with where they are in life. And in this town, village that they live in, there's like a gothic mansion as well, where this man who's supposed to be a bit of a monster, like he's an evil man, a young guy. He's like 18 or something. But anyway, he lives there on his own. People think that he's killed his whole family, and that's why they call him a monster. And he learns that our lead girl's little brother has powers of some kind and is suddenly very interested and actually decides to take them to his mansion. So he decides to basically let them live with him because he needs the little brother's powers for something. This mansion is also said to be haunted by his family, so that is a thing while they're there, and there's just a lot of weird things going on. Also, our lead girl learns that he's not actually as bad as people say he is, you know. Yeah, I just know the lead character is super annoying. To say it short, or like to put it shortly, the lead character is so annoying, I don't want to. I very simply just don't want to. Then the second book that I'm probably not gonna continue the series for whatever is Realm Breaker by Victoria Aveyard, which I still don't really fully know how to summarize, to be honest. Other than there's this girl who, for some reason, she has some kind of power, like it's in her blood, that she's able to kill this man who is super evil and has opened portals so that demon-like creatures can come through them. And he's trying to take over the world. And she's the only one who actually genetically can kill him for some reason. So she is picked up by 5 other people. They are in a squad or a group or whatever you want to call it. And they basically take off around the world to close these portals and also try to figure out how to get close enough to this man so that she can kill him. And this was boring, so I'm not going to continue it. I have talked about these extensively in wrap-ups before, but to put it shortly, it was just boring. Too long. And the last one that I'm not going to continue, and also the last one that we're talking about, sorry for this video being so long, is Spellbreaker by Charlie N. Holmberg. It's not that this was bad, it just wasn't for me. But in this book, we follow a girl who has the abilities to break spells. So spells in this world are basically cast as runes, and what she can do is untangle the runes so that she can undo the spells. But to be able to do this, or to be legally allowed to do this, you have to be licensed, which our girl is not. So she's kind of working like in secret. She's doing things for this group that continues to contact her, and one day finds herself at a mansion where she's undoing spells, but then gets busted, and this man who busts her is basically like, I won't tell on you if you help me with certain things. So they have to work together. Meanwhile, she's still working for this group that keeps contacting her, and somehow, without saying too much, I think every time she's done a job for them, something bad has happened. So she's wondering, how is she connected to it, and is she actually doing something wrong? But also at the same time, she can't really stop, because what if they bust her? And it just wasn't for me. It's historical fiction as well. The vibe didn't work for me, so, but it's not a bad book though, I will say. It's not a bad book, just not for me. And those were the 40 series that I'm currently reading. I'm sorry for taking so long to go through them, but I tried to hurry This video is still too long. Hope you enjoyed it anyway. If you want to check out any of the series, I will be leaving links to them in the description box down below, so you can check them out there if you're curious. If you want to check out the book club, there's a link to it in the pinned comment, but that is all I got for you guys today. So if you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit the thumbs up. And if you want to stick around for more videos like this, but also TBR videos and wrap-ups, readathons, bookish unboxings, and all the other booktube stuff, definitely consider hitting the subscribe button. But that is all I got, so I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.
Oh, you know you're beautiful, and it's like